Released in the year 2016 and created by the company Hoyoverse, Honkai Impact is an action role-playing gacha game. Hoyoverse, formerly known as MiHoYo, are more popularly known as for their games such as Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact. We'll be referring to it from now on is the predecessor of both Star Rail and Genshin, while also being the successor to a game called Gun Girls Online. What's strange enough about the games in question is that all the stories connect in some way or another. When Star Rail came out and people talked about how Welt Yang, one of the playable characters and passengers upon the Astral Express, is the same character from Impact 3rd, I wanted to know about it, but the more I searched, the less information I would get. That's when I realized that there wasn't a video to explain the lore behind the game. Impact 3rd has so much lore between 2016 and the production of this video, and since there weren't really many videos to explain the lore in its entirety and just different facts here and there, I decided to take it upon myself and just do it myself. So you may be wondering where this all starts and how the games are connected. Don't worry, I'll try my best to explain this to you, while also trying to not make it sound like a whole bunch of just mumbo jumbo. Parts I will be covering here are the parts of the manga. The manga will usually be split up by the arcs they discuss, but sometimes there isn't enough information in said arc, so I'll just add in another arc within that said arc. So the games and manga kinda intersect in weird ways, so I'll tell you not every now and again when something in the game is taking place alongside the manga. There will also be words and terms that aren't really explained or defined until much later, but it makes it kind of more confusing. So I took it upon myself to basically have some sort of Honkai dictionary that'll come up whenever a new word that doesn't seem self-explanatory pop up. So, to stop me from rambling forever and ever about useless little things, let's get started, shall we? The best place to start is from the beginning, so let us start off the story with the manga titled Elan Palatinus. So, the year we start our story in, 1470. We're introduced to the two driving antagonistic forces in the story. a man with the name Apocalypse, while the other one is a mysterious force said able to destroy all of humanity named Honkai. In order to combat against the Honkai menace and going forth from destroying the world created an organization known as Shixel. And with the combined forces of the church, they finally started their holy crusade across the lands, starting in Europe. The War of the Crusades had finally made its way to the Ming Empire, coming from the lands of Shinzo. It ended with an all-out war. You see, Shixo had almost won the war too, when the Ming Empire had to pull out all the stops. So what do? They put out their strongest fighter, who was not only holding back the Honkai monstrosity, she also had a secret weapon in the back pocket. A being not known by her real name, but only described as a phoenix or an immortal celestial. Realizing they're losing in an uphill battle, Shixol had to pull out all their stops as well, so they summoned their strongest Valkyrie. A Valkyrie is part of the militarized group that Shixol has to fight against the Honkai, while their strongest Valkyrie being Callan Castellana, with her divine key, Oath of Judah, which takes the shape of a giant cross. The fight was hard. It was tiring, but it didn't take long before Callan realized that she was fighting an uphill battle. And upon her defeat, Callan was waiting for the final blow from the Immortal Celestial when the Immortal Celestial decided to take pity upon her and drop some few words of wisdom upon her. When her childhood best friend and child of the overseer of Shixo, Otto, could do as he was watching afar, was to run and stand between the two of them while swearing to never let Callan get hurt. 6 years after the war, Callan tries to go back to a normal life. It's revealed that the church has changed its ways. Those who did not participate in the war have to pay indulgences now. The indulgences go straight to the church as a way of repentance for those who did not participate in the war. While all this is going on, Callan is stuck thinking about what the immortal Celestial said to her. Still injured from the war, Callan decides to go get lunch with Otto. As they're eating lunch, a lady screams out begging for forgiveness to a man, the man being a squire from the church. Who'd have thunk the church be evil? As the squire tries to take the child away from the mother as a way of reparations for not paying indulgences, the child bites the squire. As our heroine, Callan, steps in to argue with the priest that what he's doing is wrong. That's when it starts to get aggressive when Otto steps in. Otto being now overseer that his father has passed away. The lady returned inside while everyone's still scared of the church. Callan and Otto have a brief argument when her thoughts are interrupted by a lady with the red hair. The lady talking about how the church is wrong in doing sinful things with said indulgences and how they should not be taken from God's people. Take from the people and innocents need to be put to death with haste. The heretic was given to the climax of their speech. The church decided to try and silence her forcibly. And as a Castellana, their birth-given oath is to protect those that cannot protect themselves. Callan then picks up the heretic's mask that was knocked on the floor and begins to fight against the church. Callan escaped with the red-haired heretic. As a thanks, she leaves behind her mask, which she claims has been soiled by the touch of his sister. We finally get the backstory for Callan and Otto and how they met. Otto's invention going over the wall, and Callan jumping it and giving it back over. Back his invention, and then saying that together with his inventions and her power, they could change the world. When it flashes back forward to the present day, Callan runs up to Otto with a brilliant idea, stating that she will, and I quote this, steal from the evil bishops and give back to the people. Otto gives Callan a little bit of a makeover as she finally gets a new smoke bomb device as well as a new outfit. Otto and Callan then decide to send a calling card towards the bishop's house. With their mission under the way, Otto decided to cross-dress to be a distraction for the guards to let Callan into the house. Successfully making it inside looking for the vault of money the bishop has stolen, where Callan finds the vault of money when she tries to recall all that she was taught by Otto. She's finally interrupted in her train of thought by the bishop himself. Callan gets called up by name by the bishop when she has to think of an alias so she doesn't get caught. Callan then uses that moment to put on a sort of play for them, then to strike back. It's then revealed that Callan has a strength of 10 plus men. She then uses that moment to strike fear into the bishop's heart, as she is now the rogue extraordinaire. She then takes the money with the new smoke bomb trick she has and escapes, spreading it across the lands for the poor to use. It's also revealed that the bishop was also hiding something else, something that lies deep within the basement itself. We then fast forward to 1470, where the Honkai takes place into a mysterious plague. Otto has finally resorted into testing on human people, but after failure, the plague was turning people into zombie-like creatures. Otto begins to become desperate and thinking that Callan would leave him if he was not to find a cure for this plague. He finally gets a cure from within the patient named Eleanor. With this, she became a devout follower of Otto, while also she is given the last name Sherrick. A few days after the incident with the rogue extraordinaire, Callan and Eleanor begin to have a dispute on whose ideals are right, the rogues or the churches. In Callan's eyes, she was doing right. The protester was just voicing her opinions, yet she was about to be arrested, but the bishop can walk away free as if nothing was wrong. All Callan wanted to do was just protect the weak, and that, in Eleanor's eyes, makes her a failure of a nun, refusing to see what Otto sees in her. The bishop coming to Otto, proclaiming that he knows Callan was the rogue extraordinaire. Otto and the Pope hiding the truth from the bishop when asking if any of his fruits have came to labor. Callan is continuing her rogue extraordinaire business. She notices a scream and sees that a young woman is getting kidnapped. When Callan realized the home was owned by none other than the bishop, she decided to break in and see what was happening and to save the little girl. That's when Callan notices the bars that even her strength can't bend, and notices the bishop, Victor, standing behind her. That's when she forces the bishop to show her what's behind the door. And when it opens, it shows Sasha chained to a cross, a weird black box, and the black box swelling towards Sasha. That's when the girl's arm starts to glow with a mysterious marking, while hidden behind a wall is none other than Otto Apocalypse, the man behind the testing experiments. They think they have a cure for the plague, which is locked inside this little black box. They justify their methods of sacrificing one for the many for the plague. That's when Eleanor and her many Valkyries come to stop Callan. It then starts out with an all-out fight, Eleanor versus Callan. Callan trying to speak reason to Eleanor, as in they should stop testing on little girls, before Callan kicks Eleanor away, calling her an undeserving traitorous wench of the Caslana name. That's when Eleanor brings out a spear that has the same kind of energy that the Oath of Judah does. Callan realizing Eleanor is no longer trying to subdue her, but in fact kill her. A black vapor erupts from the spear, rendering Callan immobile. As Eleanor goes in for the final blow, she is suddenly stopped by none other than Otto. Otto grabbing the tip of the spear and proclaiming to just arrest her and put her in a jail cell. Afterwards, Otto then passes out. We are now inside Otto's subconscious, his dream state, exploring why he's so adamant on protecting and finding what's in this black box. We're transported into the past yet again, where we see Callan's father, Sir Francis Caslana, fighting against the Honkai Menace with his divine weapon, Judgment of Shamash. Otto then smiling and looking after the man, as he wants to be just as strong as he is. Otto then noting that because of their oath, their destiny will always be death in the end. At the gravesite of Callan Caslana's father, Francis, lays dead. Otto realizing at that moment, because of the Caslana oath, she too would die in such a way. The child, like Otto, saying that there's no way to save her. Opening the casket then, realizing that there is a dead Callan. Upon seeing her, she begins to burn up like a picture. And before he realizes, the faceless Otto states that he can help him, as long as he discovers what's in the 2 boxes. Otto rushes down to the prison cell where Callan is being held and begins to talk to her. He's trying his best to persuade him to see the light in what he's doing in the world, and she once again denounces the stupid idea. Otto making sure that Callan's alright. Otto is still trying to persuade Callan to his side, while Callan is refusing that little girls should be sacrifices. He exclaims that she's a fool for not wanting to sacrifice just a few little girls to save the entire world. Enraged, Callan slaps him when Otto explains he made her mad again. Showing 10 years into the past, we see Otto talking about how the Apocalypse clan held an item, a vessel of infinite knowledge that can only be unlocked by the wisest of them. Otto touching the item unlocks the seal, and Otto asks, out of all the questions in the world, is there a way to bring the dead back to life? The box says that it can, but in return, he must give up his own. He runs to Callan, proclaiming that he can bring her dad back to life, but Callan refuses to accept his sacrifice, which would make his death be in vain. As the being inside the box confesses that it had something else planned, and that he has an obvious weakness. Flashing forward to the present, Callan is now scolding Otto about how he talked bad about her father. Otto frees Callan and the girl named Sasha, who was the sacrifice, before Callan returns the girl to her parents. She visits her father's graves and realizes why all Castellanas walk alone. While talking to her father in her subconscious, Callan finally gets her resolves and makes her way to the church as they open what's in the black box. Preparing what's in the black box to unleash onto the people, the Oath of Judah flies into the church, as Callan proclaims that she will not let them unleash that plague onto the people, and she is there to stop the House of Apocalypse. Eleanor steps in front of Callan as she's ready to fight, putting an end to her nonsense. As the words of the immortal Celestial of Shinzo resonates deep within Callan, remembering that she once said, "Tell me, Keywielder, what is it that you fight to protect? Those who do not protect shall never realize the Oath of Judah's true power." Eleanor begins the fight against Callan, only to be constrained by the Oath of Judah, as Eleanor explains that God has told her to reach into the box and use its powers to protect others. Eleanor decides that in order to beat Callan, she needs to pull out all the stops and inject herself with a gem that was located deep inside the box. Eleanor taking the gem and using it turns into a sort of Honkai monster, which is later referred to as a Honkai beast. As the fight rages on, and Callan finally restrains Eleanor for a bit, Callan theorizes that the voice she heard wasn't God, but instead the voice of the Honkai. Eleanor realizes that the chains from the Oath of Judah is what's taking away her powers. As a last resort, Eleanor charges up one final laser to blast Callan from the back. But unlucky for her, Otto was on his way to protect her. A voice resounding from the golden box talks towards Otto, as well as looking like him before he pulls out a mimic of the Judgment of Shamash. Destroying the core, an energy mist comes forward, choosing a new host, but Otto was already taken by the mysterious lookalike boy, so he has no other choice but to go for Callan. The mass amount of Honkai energy takes Callan within her own mind, offering her to her innermost greed and desire, which is clearly the same exchange he got for Eleanor. Callan begins to be held down and is going to get slain as a ghostly figure of her father appears and reaffirms her of her belief, summoning it as a giant manifestation of herself. Callan declares that the Castellanas will always stand against Honkai threat as their oath, before she reveals that the strongest weapon of every Castellana has and always will be the belief that humanity will overcome the Honkai threat. After defeating the Honkai and waking up, Callan reveals that her findings are, as she thought, the box was in fact the voice of the Honkai. She takes the box and leaves without another word to Otto. Flash forward to an unknown amount of time when Callan has escaped Europe in a search for the Immortal Celestial. Callan has only one goal in mind, to make sure this box is never opened. On the other side with Otto and Shixel, Otto's doing experiments again on humans, which many of them end in failures. Otto, finally using the key he got from the boy who looks just like him with no face, is in fact called the Void Archive, one of the many divine keys, just like the Oath of Judah. The Void Archive is a library filled with knowledge of the previous era, which, yes, I'll explain it more in depth in another video, as it's not really talked about or really that much of a plot point here. Otto gets interrupted as he finally gets confirmation on Callan's location. She's confirmed ended up in an island far in the east called Zipangu. She also confirms that the beast inside the black box was much more stronger than any Honkai beast. She wants to save the priestess there named Yai. So Otto sends some priests as well as the Othajira, but reconsiders to send a personal letter along with it. The end of this volume ends with Otto quoting Macbeth's Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Out, out, brief candle, told by an idiot full of sound and fury, signifying nothing, while finally stating that the Honkai problem is far out of the scope of human wisdom. With that, our first video is done! Thank you so much for sitting through this part. I know this is probably like rough and hard to follow. If it is, please let me know in the comments below. This is my first ever like YouTube video, and a lot of stuff that isn't explained here, like what divine keys really are and what was in that box, isn't explained till like probably way later down the road, or second eruption, which is the next part, which is 65 chapters, I think 66 I want to say. I do want to give a huge shout out to my friends Viper Fox, who gave me the program to even make this video, Shui for reading the script through, Judo too as well for creative criticism, Rashawn and Q for being there for when I was thinking, I was like, this is so much work I have to do, but I finally got through with it. From here we can go out with a bang, and I'll start working on the script for part 2, which is the second eruption, which is a lot, like a lot. I might split up into 2 parts, but we'll figure it out when we get there. Leave a comment if you have any questions, because I'll happily answer them in the comments, especially about like the music I used in the background if you heard it. Huge shout out to, once again, Viper Fox for letting me use this creative outlet to make something that I actually enjoy for once. Thank you so much. I will put like a lot of her information down below so y'all can check her out for her art, her merch, and whatever. If you wish to see the more chaotic side of me, follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch. Fresh Macaroni. I stream Fridays 7:45 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 3 o'clock to like 3:30ish. We'll figure that out. PM Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays. Thank you so much again, and see you in the next part.